Right, we're back with episode 53 of the Midnight Pod.
You sure?
And we're on, I don't know what wine it is, but 2 bottles of Waitrose Special.
The Deers in Waitrose, which was like £7.
Really?
It's a Tillamook Malbec from Argentina.
Yeah, Argentina, that's topical. Who's going to win the World Cup?
Argentina.
Tina, hopefully.
I'd like to see Argentina win it.
I don't like I don't not like the French, but
Don't like Mbappe.
Mbappe's
Yeah.
a bit...
Or the French.
I agree. I'd like to see Messi win it. We're back with Connor Martin, who is the fucking richest man on Twitter. Came on the pod like 9 months ago. He's soon to be running all my fulfillment. He's also an investor in Space Goods. And I feel like you've scaled a brand that maybe on Twitter people know about it, but it's way bigger than I realised, and probably way bigger than a lot of people watching realise. And I think we should talk about that today, because people fucking hate agency shit.
Allegedly.
They hate fulfillment shit.
Yeah.
Ollie, co-host obviously now. What's your role at the Essence Vault?
I've come in as a fractional CMO for the brand. Oh, well, the brand at the moment, but the brand's plural. Hopefully definitely through next year and through the next few years. But
At the Jack Group.
Yeah. But focus very much on Essence Vault in the last 3 or 4 months. Got it moving. Got it cooking.
Got it moving. You fucking are bankrupt at this.
Yeah.
So Essence Vault, for context, anyone didn't see the previous episode, it's your brand you started, 3 years ago?
Just before. Well, I started it 3 years ago, but really only took off just before COVID. Well, just as COVID happened, actually. It was just me, one other employee, and then obviously lockdown happened. I shut for a week because at that stage we weren't really aware if online business could be open. Shut for a week, got an Amazon parcel through the door, realised, what the fuck am I doing shut? Reopened, and I think we hired 20 people that first month, and then like 5 extra people every month since.
About 100 people in it now, probably somewhere around that ballpark.
Because you do all your own manufacturing.
But, yeah, everything from start to finish. Yeah.
How do you even do that? Where'd you start with that?
Fuck.
Is that how it started? Or, I know we've been over this
we've
in the
always-
previous episode, but
Yeah,
to track back.
when I turned up at the operation, it was pretty interesting. It's like a chemical lab, like proper Breaking Bad.
3 steps up from Breaking Bad. That's it. You know when he moves into the underneath the washing machine place.
Yeah.
That's definitely what it's like.
Yeah.
But no, it's always been that we've sort of, without giving too much away, that the actual production, the manufacturing part is hard, but as soon as you have all the right suppliers and everything, it's very scalable. It's only like a 4 or 5 step process.
Have you always done that, or was it ever in like China?
No, it was always in the UK. It was always in house. From
How the fuck do you go from not having a business in that space to just manufacturing perfume? I think we went over this before, but I've forgotten the story.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our mixing process is still very manual, but we just employ more people rather than sort of upscale machinery and stuff. It's a very big investment, which we actually have all the manufacturing equipment now, but we still haven't had the chance to start using them because of how busy we've just continued to be, because it takes a wee while. Like, say for example, one machine will manufacture 2,000 items an hour, but we have over 500 SKUs, and that machine can really only do 3 SKUs a day. So it's still all semi-automatic machines and just more people heavy. Yeah.
When did you get involved?
Feels like 3 years ago.
July in some capacity, and then October more like.
What, was it 2 months ago?
Yeah.
I got involved in July from like a service delivery, and then transitioned to more of like an internal role in like early October, maybe late August. No, they aren't consecutive months. September, October, and then it's been foot on the gas since then.
Literally.
And then we've got, obviously, still just in the UK, but big plans to diversify into like that brand specifically into US, Europe, Australia, Canada.
Does that mean you only ship to the UK or only run out to the UK?
We
both.
like 5% of sales is in the EU, but literally we've just never had the chance to scale in Europe because of how busy the UK was. I actually, before Ollie started, I kind of thought the UK was at its maximum in terms of growth, and we were starting to look at Europe and
How long he was.
Ollie came on board and scrapped them plans.
Yeah, I think it's it's a good offer. That's fundamentally, it's just a very good offer. Save money on something that's expensive, and have the same experience. So we're still fairly.
There's flies from the kitchen
little
are coming
flies
back.
coming at me. It's fairly linear business at the moment, but there's so much more untapped potential in the UK, I think. And then obviously we start adding some more regions and territories and horizontally scale. But yeah, and then obviously starting to bring in some of the brands, hopefully with some of the cash flow, and build a monster.
So basically 3 years old, 2020, 21, 22.
Yeah.
How has growth looked since then?
I think over the course of 3 years.
I want numbers. People like numbers.
Oh, I don't like numbers.
Percentage numbers.
Percentage numbers.
Growth.
I mean, over the course of 3 years, there's only been 4 months that we haven't been on an upward. This dog's shagging me here. There's only been 4 months over the course of 3 years that we've ever not increased from the month before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think since I got involved, we've grown about 15 to 20% a month consistently.
More than that.
More than that, probably.
153 up in
really?
September, first month.
So how big was November this year compared to last year? And 2020, in fact.
400%.
So
403%.
403%.
Oh, sorry,
That's
tweet
about it, yeah. And we ran out of stock. So we started the sale Thursday evening, ran out of the bulk of our stock on Saturday morning, and we've been running with samples and 30 mils since Saturday. We only actually just restocked our 100 mils, which is obviously the big AOB product, 2 days ago, yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday.
We
could have done much bigger numbers.
Sorry.
We could have done bigger numbers.
Should I get rid of this dog?
I think get rid of him. Yeah.
Unless he calms down. You got 2 minutes to calm down. I'll start properly hurting you.
We could have done bigger numbers through November and December, I think. But selling out isn't a bad thing. Creates demand. Well, it's not an ideal thing, but it's never ideal. But you just got to try and spin it as a positive. And I think once we got that sorted, we'll be able to we've got like the changes we made to get to grow it through the last 4 months have been fairly simple changes. There's a lot of other things to do to continue that growth trajectory. There is going to come a point of diminishing returns, but I think there's loads of things like LTV plays and things that we've not really tapped into to the full extent yet, which are the real profit makers obviously over the long term.
What do you think's been the main thing that's grown it from 2020?
A lot of restructuring, simplification of all processes. Like for example, emails. We switched to plain text every email, and like it's
the
insane.
ultimate chat scale.
Ultimate works. We're changing that a little bit. Obviously we have flows and stuff, but we're reworking all those at the moment. I think like a systematic approach to content and media buying has been the big thing. And turning on TikTok effectively, that's been huge. Awareness play on there, feeding through to Google and enhancing Facebook efficiency. Jamie, who works for my agency but also does work on TEV, has done something really, really solid media buying work, a really good feedback loop with creative. You can get a lot of leverage out of. You can get to a very large revenue business if you have a good product just through good creative and media buying feedback loop, and then you have to start adding other things onto that beyond that to get past some plateaus. But I think that just enhancing and optimizing that has had a massive impact. There's been a lot of CRO work, and a lot of like playing around with offers, playing around with conversion rate. Obviously, if you can get a really high conversion rate, which we've worked on quite a bit, like it means that you've got a lot more leeway to play with on the front end, because you know that you're going to be able to sling a lot of traffic through and it's going to convert. That's been a big, like, keeping things simple, and then obviously putting processes in place that make things run efficiently, repeatably, and just incrementally improve things over time has been probably the big thing. Interested to see if I think we can replicate it across every market as well.
That's the plan, is to create something that is we can just duplicate into other brands and sort of become like a privatized Hut Group. Without the sort of pain of a massive shareholder base. Keep it very simplistic. If we're taking on finance, it's a small group of people, so we don't become that whole sort of you know, if you want to put anything live, it has to go through 3 layers of approval and that sort of thing. If we can create a sort of group that's very fast reacting, especially to product trends and stuff, where we can go 10x, 20x.
Do you think you can build loads of brands and be successful with the same processes, or do you think it is ultimately dependent on the product and that brand, and it might be harder to scale like a new one? I know you've got a new one you're working on.
Yeah, I think Tev, the Essence Fault's a very good offer, as I just said, which makes it a lot easier than a brand that's got high about that's a really strong offer. So replicate using this exact same formula on a brand that isn't as strong an offer, like without changing anything won't work. But you can still put like fundamental processes and systems that are repeatable across brands, like that media buying system of content feedback. That's going to be the same across every brand. The way that you do retention is going to be fundamentally similar across every brand. Some brands may lend themselves to community, some brands might not, so there's still elements you're going to change, but there's a lot of repeatable systems and processes you can put in place. The brand itself, the positioning, the product is obviously the variable, but I think it's spotting the right opportunities in that, like almost reverse engineering. There's one brand that we're working on at the moment which I think is going to fly, which is kind of I'm not going to give it away, but that's in a niche that's passion.
Is it a Rainbow Dust rip on there?
Yeah, it's just Space Goods 2.0. Earth Goods.
He's just reading the fucking monthly report, putting more money behind it. It's game over.
No, it's like one of the ones. It's like strong branding in a niche that lends itself to good content and community, passionate, subscription based. Like there's some. It's spotting the right. It's spotting the right opportunities. If you can't just rip brands with no thought process behind them because they're not going to work, I feel like.
That's what I tried.
A lot of people rip brands. I was talking to someone the other day about like a lot of people launch brands with what I'd now consider like the minimum barrier to entry. Like beauty is a good example. Like you might have really nice branding, eco-friendly, vegan, cruelty-free. Like that used to be like enough to have success, whereas now that feels like the flaw, and you have to have like you have to have a USP or something that really distinguishes you from other people, because that's just like the barrier to entry is increasing and moving. Like the goalposts are moving in terms of what gets resonance and what gets people purchasing. And I think it's important to consider that and not just kind of launch things willy-nilly and think that it's going to work. Like we're trying to build it where every brand is self-sustaining beyond like a 3 to 6 month period. Because if not, like we don't want to be in a situation where like Tev just funds a load of other brands, because then you've not really got
a grip. You've just got
like
loss maker.
Yeah.
Where's the logic in hypothetically building a group of say 10 brands compared to just focusing on Tev and getting it to $1 billion in revenue?
I think
like broadly speaking.
I think in terms of any brand, there's going to be limits on how far you can grow, the life cycle of the brand, and the legal problems behind any brand. You know, like anything can happen. Realistically, you know, let's look at the big designer brands now that are going into the floor now that you would never have thought 6 months ago that them, you know, that Balenciaga was going to hit the dirt. But so that's the sort of thought process behind it. If we can spread the sort of negativity amongst a group of successful brands, you've ultimately got a larger cash flow, because none of them brand or the group doesn't distinguish itself on summer months or winter months. Help me out.
I also think we're in a nice position with that business that like it's fairly simple, it's growing really rapidly, it's giving us the cash flow to build a team that can then manage that without me or you needing to spend any time on it, and then running another brand through that team. It's like the idea is build an internal infrastructure that can support multiple brands without jeopardizing the growth of another one, which I think is very doable. Like Tev has grown pretty rapidly with a very small marketing team. We can use the cash to hire a bigger marketing team. Then when we plug in another brand, it doesn't jeopardize the growth rate of that. And then it diversifies through more brands, and then it also increases the enterprise value of the group as a whole. Because a group of 10 brands is inherently way more valuable as an asset to someone. if they're all self-sustaining, they're all, and you've proved, and you can, not even just the brands, like if you can prove that you've got a repeatable process to launch brands, the enterprise value of that organization is massive, because you can. It's just a massively attractive proposition for someone to come in and buy.
That was always my vision. That's why I had two, bro. I used to call it Infinity 85 Group. I was just too fucking stupid to do it.
It's just like, you just did it without like a...
And now I've decided I sleep better at night with one brand.
Yeah.
At least for now.
But you could run multiple brands as long as you build the operations where you're not the one running multiple brands.
Yeah,
like, you need to get to a place where you
that.
have like a team which is structured correctly, running one brand, and then...
And don't structure two brands under the same limited company.
Yeah, that's... well, it depends.
I'm
Shout out to Seamus.
Still recovering from that emotionally.
And as well as that, like, offers do run stale. So if the brand doesn't continue to make the right steps, you know, like we're being directly copied by 4 or 5 brands already, straight off the bat, and they're obviously growing well, but they're growing off the sort of stuff that we implemented 6, 12, 24 months ago. So all it takes is for us to take our eye off the ball or trip up on one or two ideas, and then we're sort of in line with them competitors. Right now we're lucky and we're thankful that we are so far ahead of them, but that's, you know, that can change. So the diversification obviously helps that.
How did you come up with the concepts initially? Was it like, did you test a bunch of things, or was it like you just started and it worked?
I've always loved perfume. Thinking back at school, I was always that twat that stunk of dupe.
Alpaca around 1 million.
Yeah, $1 million, man.
Dupe and CK1. I used to open up the screw top of the CK1 and mix dupe in it, and create my own.
That's some gangster shit.
And then obviously forgot about it for a while. Uni, broke as, and just sort of came to the conclusion that that's what I was interested in, so let's just do it. When I started it was never the intention of turning it into a business. I just wanted to make it for myself, and then realised that there was, you know, if I'm having this problem, other people are, and that was it. Kept going from there. Done it at markets for 6 months. Obviously touched on it in the first pod, but done markets for 6 months. Didn't know that outside of big brands you could actually run an ecom brand, and then
so BTEC compared to now. It's like the ultimate irony.
If anyone, if you're familiar with web archives, have you ever go on the web archives and slap Essensalt in and look at Connor's first Shopify website? Oh my god!
I think it's pretty shit now. So it must have been really bad.
You haven't seen that
prestige.
You haven't seen that conversion rate, Chief.
I know. Christ, I probably care too much about what someone looks like.
Functional is what it is. Have a look at the web archive and look at what Connor put together. It's a good one. I find that website really interesting. Just looking back at like Uber's first website.
I got the best birthday present ever for Fred last year. Fred, founder of Sanucci, and he nearly cried when I gave it to him. I probably shouldn't even tell this story. I got him a web archive framed picture of the first ever Sanucci website in 2016 or something,
That's
17,
sick.
with a nice handwritten note on the back, and it was just, what do you get the man that has everything?
Please don't get that from me.
Getting something that sparks feelings.
If I bought him that, I'd be going straight.
The message was like, look how far you've come. But
yeah,
it's
Ours
cool.
was
It's cool you
rancid.
can do that.
Ours was awful.
it's just everyone's. It's all. I think this saying is like, if you're not like ashamed of the first website you put up, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, I'll even
Just
look at
move
Space
fast.
Goods 6 months ago. It looked different.
Yeah,
Like, you should always,
Go
I
faster.
just realised I didn't put the actual lighting on for this episode.
it's dark.
Should we pause briefly and put that light on? I'm wearing a dirty jumper and I haven't had a trim in like 3 weeks.
Oh, good. We're just raw around here, aren't we? Just straight in.
This is the fucking goblin mode flat. You know, prior to this podcast, I hadn't seen a person since the last podcast. I haven't spoken to a person in
Since I
person
was
for a
last
week.
year.
I haven't seen anyone apart from at the gym, which has only been, the gym and CrossFit. That's how fucking
True
just
dedication
goblin mode
to
I've
the
been the
mission.
past few weeks.
It's Q4.
If that isn't a good sign for investors, I don't know what is. Just
Christ,
I'm
all
gonna
I've been doing is fucking speaking to investors. Just give me 2 million quid and fuck off.
What's it like talking to investors on the reg? Suppose you can't.
I mean, no, I actually quite enjoy it because it's. I mean, I really need to get out more and speak to more people, but yeah, it's quite interesting. I mean, it's different speaking to angel investors. Spoke to loads of angel investors, some of which are giving me money, which is great, and then a load of just VC funds and shit. And it's a sim. I mean, I think I'm quite good at it because I'm just no fluff. I just say the truth. Like there's like two parts of it. There's the story and then there's the business, and then I guess there's the vision as well. It's kind of like three parts to it.
Yeah.
So I just fucking talk about how I fucked up in the past, which is actually a massive plus for them, I think.
I think Nick Sharma said that on his podcast.
So I just say, I've done this before.
Yeah.
I fucked up the last one, but I've gone again. This is what I'm trying to do. Here's what we've proven in the first 7 months. Here's my vision for the next 5 years, basically. That's kind of the conversation. And then
it's a good feedback loop as well. Like we're doing it with that app at the moment, trying to raise money, and it's just like interesting. First one we did, they were like, you need to have more numbers in here. Like your projections are shite, basically. And I was like, that's great feedback. Cheers. Like these two guys worth 100 mil plus. Just like interesting to get feedback on your idea. Interesting for them to they always give good like tangible insights. Who's the maddest investor you spoke to as a person? If you could, obviously don't need to have a name.
As a person, I'm trying to think. Probably some bloke that is investing and he's probably not watching this, but apparently he's some billionaire. I mean, he probably is. I don't know for a fact, but he invested in Alex's business, Content Co.
Yeah.
A few times, and he put me in touch with him. We had one call. He agreed to invest. Then we met in person, and then we started chatting about cars. Like you just got to find common ground. I mean, I didn't know, he's not a known person. It's just like, it's interesting. There's a lot of private money out there. You just got to get in the room and then spark a connection. Mm-hmm. Same as anything really. It's like dating, but slightly different.
Yeah, it's funny when people ask you for tips on how to network. It's just like have something to give to them.
It's funny, because I would even go as far as it's not even that. You just need to show up. Because I'm shite at networking and I absolutely hate it. But from the few times that I've done it, like I met you and Joe. I met other people. Nick Shackelford's Geek Out.
Just become a valuable person and then go network is a lot easier. Yeah. It's much harder when you don't have that.
Just got to have a story in it as well. I think the thing I've done well with my inverted commas personal brand is because it's not a personal brand, it's just me.
Yeah.
And there's no agenda. I really should have more of an agenda so I could fucking make money from it, which would be insane. But I don't know. I just think no one's really got any dirt on me because I just self-deprecate every single episode.
Yeah.
Like I've already said it. Yes, I'm a soppy romantic cunt. Yes, my last business fucked up. Yes, I'm not as rich as half the dons on Twitter. But it just is the truth. And I think, people just buy into that, innit? It's evident when people are fronting.
It's funny because you look at Twitter and everyone's saying the same thing. It's like,
I tweeted about this the other day, didn't I? That's where you got a lot of engagement because it touched the nerve.
Talk about fucking shit instead.
Yeah.
People care just as much about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like LinkedIn, innit? Like LinkedIn's just a...
People can just see virtue signaling a mile off, can't they? Like, it's just be yourself, but it's actually quite rare for people just be themselves these days because everyone's trying to be another version of some perceived version of someone else, and like the irony is no one actually fucking has any backbone because they don't stand for anything. They don't have their own opinions on things.
Yeah,
it's like a level of vulnerability, I guess, that people aren't.
Yeah, it's like everyone on Twitter now. They fucking have to live in Dubai. Everything they talk about is based or whatever that fucking term is.
I hate that. What does it even mean?
Like everyone hates women and shit. Like you have to eat raw fucking liver or some. But do you know what I mean? There's that
bollocks
clique. Everyone jumps on it. It's like fucking hell. Just have your own opinion on something. But yeah.
I can't believe that Liver's King story. It's so funny. How did people not think he was dosed?
Was there actually proof?
Yeah,
he's done
sent an email with a breakdown of what he was dosing.
Oh, so that got leaked?
Yeah. It was like he was on loads. It's like it's just like people just don't. It's like look at him. There's this level of like lack of self like common sense. Like look at the state of him. There's no way he's not roided off his tits. He's absolutely wham. It's just like that was funny.
It's funny, fucking hell. Yeah, getting in shape's hard unless you run every day. That's why I'm trying to keep up the running. That's why I've quietly entered the next London Marathon, but I wasn't going to announce it because I don't know if I'm going to do it yet.
Would you want to do one like in New York or something?
Yeah,
maybe.
You need to do an Ironman.
I haven't decided if I can be bothered being fit enough yet because it's fucking difficult.
You You need to go full Goggins and
Well,
do
we all just go over to New York and do the New York Marathon.
Yeah.
We finished an hour and a
Sub
half after
Sub
sub 5
5.
hours.
The sub 5 challenge.
I wanted to come back to Essensville, ask you a question about prior to obviously I know the story since we met you. Prior to that, did you ever consider bringing other people into the business from an investor capacity, from a team capacity? Like I guess what I've done with you. Did you ever consider any like macro shifts in setup?
No, trust's a big thing for me.
Yeah.
I have to trust that person to a big extent before letting them anywhere near sort of baby, so to speak.
Even with us, it was a chip away
Oh
process.
yeah, it was, yeah. I think we worked on an agency aspect before
Yeah.
even coming near Tev, and it was, because we went and seen a skin first and then over
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, I've just been burnt by agencies in the past. Yeah, even going back to my dad, he'd always say, no, make sure you own everything yourself and that sort of thing, because you're at someone else's mercy, which is to an extent why you would get into business in the first place. So why would I want to give that up?
Yeah.
And obviously I wouldn't say being proven wrong bringing you on board, but it's there's some stuff we disagree on, and
it's productive to have it's productive to have conflicts. Like, you want people who are going to challenge you. Like, even you get that. I'm obviously seeing that in the WhatsApp group. People push back. It's productive. That's what you want people there. You don't want yes men around you. You want people who are there to be like, we need this, or we need these numbers, or like, you shouldn't be doing this, or you should be doing this, or your idea is shit. Or it's not like, again, it's not the person who's calling your idea shit isn't also right, but it's like, it's worth having that discussion. But it's a balance, and it's a balance about bringing them in at the right point, I think.
So were you running Facebook before from Saw?
We ran TikTok initially, and then convinced him to give us Facebook. So we were running all the paid.
How did you meet originally?
I
I feel like everyone fucking knows everyone. Was it just
in a
Twitter?
Spoons in Dubai?
In
Manchester.
Yeah, I did a tweet saying, anyone go and geek out Dubai, and then he replied saying yes, and I was like, you flying from Manchester Airport? And we met over a crisp Heineken and a full English.
Really?
In a Spoons just before we got on the plane.
A cold full English as well.
You sit next to each other.
No, he was on first class, obviously. And we were in economy. Just like,
That's when he knew he was hired.
I went out to there, and then obviously just connected since then.
Yeah. Worked in the skincare brand first, and then Tev, and then obviously where we are now.
Yeah.
So is it 2 brands currently? With a third pending?
No, there's 3 and 2 pending.
Three brands currently, 2 pending, with the vision of probably doing more next year.
My brain just don't work like that. I've got all the ideas, but I just can't exist with more than one.
It doesn't. Mine doesn't really, but it's like I can't. Well, yeah. Like, again, it's like, I'm not going to run them all, or we're not going to run them all. Like, there's going to be a team that runs them. And there's going to be people who own certain OKRs, certain KPIs, certain responsibility. Like, giving people responsibility is key, a massive key. Like, giving people ownership of specific metrics, giving people ownership of both for their fulfillment and for the progression of the business. Like it's one of them. Like, if we didn't, and we just thought, right, actually, the Essensville is doing very well, we can just focus on that, we'd never give up responsibility, because there'd be no reason to give up responsibility. But if we're creating these other brands, our focus has to be on them, which forces us to let other people do things for in the Essensville. So it's isn't nice at the time, and it can cause hiccups, which it has in Q4. But it's went very well after dealing with them.
So out of like you said 100 people.
Well, including agency staff now, we're up to about 145.
Is the majority of that like production?
I would say
/ fulfillment.
Yeah. Talking about, out of that 145, probably 110.
30? 110, somewhere between 110 and 130. We've not got a massive marketing team at the moment. I was pretty actively pursuing bringing that in at the moment, like in transitioning away from.
And are you still working with agency, or are you just running it yourself?
We are still working with agency, and we always will work with. I fundamentally believe some roles in an e-com brand are better fulfilled by agencies than
so
internal staff.
Because they get view on other brands.
Paid ads is a prime example. I think it's good to have a head of performance internally who maybe for us, I would like to have a head of performance who manages the brand, all of the brands, but then maybe the brands are run by agencies or external staff, because like you say, like having cross-sectional data from like 5 or 6 accounts at a similar scale is invaluable for like seasonality, even just like creative trends, and like it's really hard if you're just in the trenches of like 1 or 2 businesses within specific verticals.
It's similar taking nuggets from Twitter. Usually when a nugget goes on Twitter, it's actually on the way out. So if you've got an agency working on other brands, you're getting that sort of nugget 2 months before it reaches Twitter, you know?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else would be fundamentally better served outside. It really depends. I think like stuff like, I think retention is better internal long term, because you want someone who lives and breathes the community and the message and the brand. So it's like better, I think, like post like emails, SMS and community builds, basically like CRM is in my opinion better internal. Like, obviously that's a bit of a conflict of interest because we do email marketing as an agency, but like that is how I would move a brand long term, because you want someone who's always working on your messaging, always working on that retention play, because retention is bigger than just sending a few emails. It's like how you nurture someone to being like an advocate for your brand over time.
And it's funny because I up until very recently, I still done all of the plain text emails myself, and like if you've seen some of the replies, like what our list is maybe 500,000 people, you'll get maybe every email 1,000 people thinking that they are actually, I've sent them a direct email to them, and they're replying, like even to the point where people tell me what they're having for dinner. Like it's fucking
So
insane.
mad.
Yeah.
And the odd time I actually do go in and reply to that email again, just to keep the thought in their head.
Yeah.
Extend that LTV.
Yeah. So like that's a function that I think is better done internally. I don't know what else. What would you say?
Well, yeah, it's funny because like all these fucking investors and that, one of the first questions they say is, how big's your team? I'm like, well, it's like 5 freelancers and me. Because in my head, I feel like you should be able to get to $1 million a year per person in D2C. However, having said that, I'm saying like 5 people, but yeah, there's actually like 5 people in that agency, which I'm counting as one. The supplier is effectively a person, but because of the way it's set up, it's kind of an agency. Like they do the product development for me.
Yeah.
And then like with a 3PL, I guess that would be a person or a few people. So it's not quite 5 people, it's probably more like 10. And then obviously I'm not at $1 million per person yet, but I think you could get there.
I'd say a good one is keeping them. I think it's supposed to, the actual target is keeping your wage bill about 20% of your actual sales, where we're sitting about 8%. But
Yeah, 20% seems pretty high.
yeah, that's what
8%.
I think that's what Seamus
I feel
said.
like 10% for team broadly. Well, I mean, what do I know? But that's
Depends
what I
how,
would say.
again, it depends what your team.
Yeah, it depends what you sell
Yeah,
as well.
if it's a service business, way higher.
For an e-com brand specifically, it depends it depends on a lot. It depends on how fast you're growing. It depends on like what your team's doing versus what external contracts are doing. How efficient the team are. Like, I think you can get a team of 5 killers who can build a brand to an absolute ridiculous level with a bit of external help. Like 5 people always working on one brand. I know, like if I pulled our 5 best staff from the agency and we launched a brand, I reckon we could do some damage. But it's just because I know, like, you know that they're absolute killers and they're A players.
Yeah, honestly,
and
I'm
everything.
literally retarded at hiring. So, like the 3 people, so the whole team is me, Simon, the finance guy, Arslan, the agency, Lucy, Florian, and Brad. And those 3, I feel like they're all ridiculously good. Like you know Lucy now as well a bit,
Yeah.
but I couldn't fucking run the business without her. I couldn't run the business without Florian, who does all the customer service and just bullshit that I just don't want to deal with. And then Brad's the most creative genius I've ever worked with ever in the history of people, and he's probably going to get loads of inquiries now.
Is that
So he does all the movies
Indigo?
and shit. Indigo, yeah.
Yeah, he's really
He's
good.
fucking genius.
Really
like,
good.
But they've all either come to me or I've met them through a friend. Like over time, I've never hired someone. I've not really hired that many people, but like I'm shy away from it.
You are
I'm just-
challenged when it comes to hiring.
I don't know what it is though. I
Mentally
don't know if it's definitely a form of autism.
I mean, it's just, again, it comes down to the trust aspect. You just either become over trusting too easy, or you just don't trust enough, to the point where you don't give them responsibilities because you still want to do it yourself, or
Yeah.
vice versa. You want to give them responsibilities and they're maybe not the right fit for the brand. I think one of our big hires, hopefully we have it already in place, but is a head of recruitment, because like although that's another wage, it's worth a lot. It's more damaging to have a wrong person in that
Definitely.
job than have a good person in that job, in theory, because a few bad hires can completely stop a brand or a service, as I know firsthand. So that's why I would rather have someone in place where they're making sure that that's the right person, and I've got the third party choice at the end of, she comes and says, right, Connor, there's 4 absolute, top notch from the job description you've given me. These are 4 or 5 people that I would hire, and then I pick the one I think out of that. So and that drops the chance of it becoming a problem.
I'm a big fan of poaching people as well. Like fundamentally, the best people for a job usually have a job.
Yeah,
Like,
makes sense.
just if we were going to hire, like we're currently trying to hire a head of strategy, and I already know the person I want to poach for it, and I know that she'd be a good fit for it because she's doing the job for another company, and she's doing a job for another company that we're trying to replicate the success.
I think there's
of.
an element though of like, because I've always thought like, is there some kid in fucking Botswana that's better than Ronaldo, but he never got taken down to football practice when he was 5? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So is there an
yeah.
element of that with jobs? I guess there is, but
then again,
do you know what I mean?
at the same thing,
if they've
there is.
they've already been interviewed by a good company if you poach them, haven't they?
Yeah,
They've already
they've
gone through that
already
process.
jumped through hoops, and it's also like, yeah, like you know if they're in a certain job, and if they're also like they must be doing well in the job, otherwise they wouldn't be there. Especially if it's just like a slightly senior position.
It's a double-edged sword because that person's going to be a lot more expensive than the kid from Botswana, but he's going to need trained for 2 or 3 months. So it's going to cost you either way.
How would you go about poaching them?
We built a really good system. Well, I'm not actually I put this into practice for Connor, but people can steal this. We built like a system through the agency where you can run this with one virtual assistant. You profile the job you want. You profile the companies that they might be working at based off that job profile you want. Say you want a media buyer, like a senior media buyer for an agency. Like you write down like what does that job look like? What other companies, like what other agencies would they be working for? And then you reach out to them on LinkedIn and be like, we're looking for this job. Do you? But then we phrase it in a way of being like, is there anyone in your network who might be interested in this job? So we send that. And then that kind of leaves the door ajar for them to say they're interested in it or refer us to someone else that they know. Because if they're usually quite a high performance person, they'll know someone else who's good. And then off the back of that, we'll send them like a Loom video that looks like it's personalised, but it isn't. So we word the first 3-4 seconds as if we've just recorded it. Send them that, and then basically push them from that through the same hiring process we'd use for anybody else. But yeah, so like profile the job, cherry pick the companies that they might already working at. So for that, you pick another like 100 big e-com agencies in the UK, and then basically just go after the staff on LinkedIn. We don't do that for SOAR because we
I need to get you to hire people for me in the future.
Can't do it for SOAR because he just gave it away.
Yeah, we don't do it for SOAR because we hire and train everybody for that business. We hire everybody with no prior experience. We hire them off culture fit and then train them to the point of proficiency. But for the other agency and for the Essence Vault, it's very different. We're playing at a different. Our goals for those businesses are different, so we would use that system. But that will work if you apply it. I can send people it if they ask me. If they want to DM me for it, I'll send you the SOP for it. But like, we're like a head of brand, I'd probably go poach a head of brand if we're going to hire one, which we probably will do. Things like that. Senior hires more so than like, I think a media buyer, you probably don't need to do that. You could just hire and train someone if you're already pretty proficient in it, which I already feel like I am. I can teach someone that role. But for something that's like a slightly senior position, like a head of strategy or a head of brand, like I'd want someone to come in and be like, if you're going to pay them decent wage, be ready to go. And bring cross learnings from other businesses. It's really valuable to get someone who's worked in another big organisation and done that role, I think, because they can teach you a lot. They can bring a lot of systems and processes with them, a lot of best practices which you wouldn't have been aware of if you hadn't hired them. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like the person I need at some point is just someone to run the fucking business. So
You need an
movies.
ops person. You need a COO, I think. Like someone who's going to manage hiring, team management. because also that then reduces your cognitive load and allows you to focus on creativity.
Cognitive load is one way of putting it.
Cognitive
Yeah.
load is such a thing. Like, you should be minimizing the things you have to think
Like
about.
the only time of the day when I'm happy is
Well,
when I get to fucking think about the next video we're doing, the next fucking product. But I spend 90% of my time miserable dealing with supply
Yeah,
chain,
like-
But you know what you should do? Instead of a CEO,
trying to manage
go a step
fucking
down
little things.
and get an EA, like a proper EA.
But
And
Yeah.
that's changed. That's
Yeah, that's
that's
pretty
probably been
much.
the, apart from Ollie, that's probably been my biggest button pusher.
I think cognitive
Lucy
load.
could do that. She keeps asking me.
Yeah, you should get her to
I'm
do
telling
that.
you.
I just get massive imposter syndrome also when it comes to hiring people.
Why?
So I feel like I'm not good enough to have someone fucking better than me working for me.
Well, that's a flaw.
Like massively.
Yeah, you need to get out of that mindset.
I would honestly hire
I
her for
still
that
just
role.
default to like the fucking kid on the laptop designing shit.
Like
That's the identity I still have.
you're like
Even though I believe I can build this massive brand.
well, yeah, you can, yeah, well, but that's like a sign of where you should position yourself in a business. Like we've actually had this issue in the agency. Like, we have creative strategists, and our service delivery quality started to fall because they weren't spending enough time being creative, because they ended up, for some reason, they were picking up loads of admin tasks, like sending contracts to creatives, which is not in their wheelhouse.
Yeah.
When we stripped that out and they focused solely on being creative and coming up with briefs, the quality of content in the last like 2 months exponentially increased. So like, when I say cognitive load, it's like you should be reducing the things you need to think about on a daily basis and focusing your attention only on the things that move the needle massively or you're best suited to do.
Yeah,
So like,
so true.
bring in someone to manage the ops so they take things off your plate. You don't even have to think about anything. So I got to a point with Saw where I was having to I was like, oh, how are these all these accounts doing? Like, I haven't got a pulse. So we built a dashboard where I could just go in and see like a scored rating of performance, and like that's means that I don't have to think about that anymore. It's not something I have to like have on my mind, which is like, when you free up that capacity to think and that energy, you can then shift it into where you're good at. So you should focus on like bringing someone on who is going to take so much off your plate so you can be even more creative than you're being now, and focus your time
Yeah,
on
because I
something.
do think that's what I'm best at. I'm this weird sort of hybrid where I'm not the starving artist type, so I've never been that. But I'm definitely like better at the creative stuff than most founders. But I've just like begrudgingly sort of figured out the business side to an extent, even though some bits I'm still retarded with.
Yeah,
It's like I sit in this limbo where I'm like, I'm not quite Brad because I don't want to just be the creative, because I want to fucking make loads of money and build a cool brand. But I also don't want to be a CEO ever.
Yeah, but that's like, you're like
I think the main part
you're
of
just
being
a founder.
Yeah,
Like
just a founder.
a founder is like vision and strategy, and that's what that
Yeah.
is. It's like creative vision and strategy. So like, you should focus on just doing that, and then everything else should be out like pushed to someone else.
Yeah, like I agree. Like I learned it the hard way. You need to enjoy everything you're doing. So the job of a CEO should be redefined to do everything that you like and outsource the stuff that you either hate or you're not good at, or more so you hate, because naturally you will be more creative once you sort of have a bit of fun with what you're doing. And if you are 90% of the time, if you are just sort of disinterested or sort of begrudgingly doing it, then that doesn't mean that you have to be good at it. Someone else can be good at it for you, you know.
I think cognitive load's a really good way of looking at it. Like,
Cognitive load.
just
No,
like
it is.
just think about less
Based.
stuff.
Yeah.
Just think it.
Because
Just
like when I'm in the sauna, for example, which I go to pretty much every day,
less
I get
things on your
mad
mind.
ideas,
Yeah.
and I've actually got a habit now of I'll make sure I'm wearing my Apple Watch so I can take notes in the sauna in case I forget them,
Yeah.
and then I come back and I'm like, fuck, then I've no time to fucking work on them.
So like, try and gating time to be creative and think is important, and like, but the only way you do that is get things off your mind and have like less things to think about. So you need an ops person who can serve that function, who can take all of those like the supplier stuff. Like, do you really need to do that? Could they not report back to you on those calls? Could they not report back to you on like a weekly basis? Could they not like even like, obviously at different stages, but from like a paid media relationship, like, do you really need to be on, like, can you not just, well, you probably do receive like weekly report and everything, but like, how do you get further away from that? How do you get people just reporting back to you on what you need to know and remove yourself from like the actual nitty gritty of the decision making? I think and because your position should be vision and strategy, because that is like what you want to do, innit? Like,
Yeah,
You're similar to that, I feel. Like, not maybe not as creative, but like,
Thanks.
he's just
Definitely
like,
a lot more profitable.
He's yeah,
A lot more.
What you lack in creativity, you make up in cash.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you're similar though. Like you're very good at ops and like product and product development, and then I've come in obviously to help with the marketing and systems and processes.
Yeah, I mean, it was, yeah, especially the last 6 months, it's been more, I find myself not having to do as much, but more the stuff that I want to do.
Which is what you should optimise around. Like, what do you don't build a business for the business to own you and operate you, do you? You build it to operate, like, you want to build it to operate.
Like, this time last year, in Q, well, basically, we ran into issues with our supplier. Literally got an email from one of the machine suppliers saying that there was a massive conference in Dubai with all of the manufacturers, and at 3 days notice I was like, right, I'm going to go off there for a week and just get as many business contacts as I can. But last year I wouldn't have been able to do it unless it was planned 3 or 4 months before that, which was massive for us. It knocked our COGS down by like 3%, which was fucking huge. In a time where COGS were going up by 6 or 7%.
It's definitely not £7, by the way. It's got to be 14.
$7.99.
Really?
I think that's a question of like self-awareness, like, and being like I from an agency perspective, I'm like fairly average at managing people, so I don't involve myself in that process because both it's something I don't really enjoy, but it's also a disservice to them
Hefty glass of wine there.
if I do that.
Space Goods branded.
Yeah, Christ.
And I think quite a lot of founders lack self-awareness. Like, it's definitely something you have to work on.
Yeah.
I think they're good at everything, which they're just fundamentally not.
I'm shit at almost everything.
Yeah, that's a bet.
I'm
That's
just
a bet.
good at being a high risk cunt.
But that's a bet. That's a way better mentality to have than I'm good at everything.
Yeah.
Way better.
And I used to be that. We used to do all of our own marketing, and I thought it was class at it. I thought it was better than every agency to ever do it. And then Ola came and determined that there was an extra 50% revenue out of the UK.
Yeah, they're also the founders that when you work with them in any capacity, you're almost like working against them. It's like, I'm not like, if you're like from an agency perspective, it's like you get into, I don't really want to segue down the agency route because we keep getting hate for the agency, but this is
The anti-pod agency.
yeah.
So the anti-agency pod.
It's like they're the owners when it's like they don't ask productive questions. It's always like, why is this not working? It's rather than like, how can we make this work? Or like we're in this to like work with you to get the best results, not just to like burn your money.
Yeah.
Yeah, coming back to TED for a second then. It's very profitable from what I hear, and I'm sure it fucking is. But
This makes me sound like I share your net profit to it.
I know you do. You can't.
No, I don't.
well, no, I'm just it's doing all right in it. I mean, I don't actually know where I've got that from.
It's doing okay at the minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
It hasn't been.
Is
in
that the
past.
sort of business you think you would ever try and get an exit for, or is it a cash cow business? Because
I don't know.
is it complicated with? It's imitation perfumes, right? Essentially, is there difficulty there in terms of
Inspired by, not imitations.
Inspired by, yeah.
Allegedly. No, like I would never.
Do you see you selling it?
No, I don't. I don't. I just always. There's the. Obviously, you're worried about cash flow. I think selling it would only satisfy me for so long. I think it would be, if I sold it and had that much free time in my hands, I would spend that money making the next TEV anyway, and perhaps not working. So I would prefer to have it. You know, and if it gets to the stage where it has to be toned down, so be it. But at this stage, I don't think I would ever sell.
From my perspective, looking inwards, I wouldn't consider selling it now because we barely scratched the surface. Like, we're just doing the UK, and the numbers are already crazy. So like just take that and put it, like, there's so much growth opportunity. Like, I feel like when you want to sell a business, you want to sell it when it's growing, but beyond the point of like where it starts to become a bit of a struggle to grow it, or a bit of like you're not enjoying it as much, or it's not easy to grow something.
It's funny because like off the back of TEV, we've been able to grow a 3PL that can get prices cheaper than 90% of the UK 3PLs. We've been able to get
Sponsored by Jack.
Small plug there.
small plug. We've been able to grow other brands at a stage where, you know, the level of cost to launch a new brand is relatively close to zero because we've already got the staff there. You know, we can take risks on that. We can take risks on Tev. We can take risks on other brands. We learn a lot from it. We've got access to a lot of our tech stack. We get really good pricing on a lot of things.
Funding
We get
opportunities.
we get to contact, you know, founders of these tech stacks or tech companies, and it gets us into different circles. So unless I had another brand at the same level as Tev, I would never consider selling it because you lose that sort of in.
Yeah,
You know?
you still build it to sell. I fundamentally think every business should be built to sell.
Do you think the answer to that is because you've made enough cash for that not to be like?
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say I've made enough cash. But I've made, you know, like it because it runs at a nice profit level. We can confidently look at other avenues and not have to worry the same way you would do with an exit.
It's
You know?
I view it as being a vehicle to a much bigger exit further down the line. Like it allows us to build. It's allowing us to build a team and an operation that could be sold for 10, 15 times what Tev alone could be sold if we got it right over a 10-year period.
You got Jack Group equity on her?
I actually haven't, no.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I want to put $2,000 in.
Yeah.
Put my life savings into Jack Group.
Like I fundamentally believe that we could become bigger than the Hut Group because I look at the Hut Group and think that they have done
No pressure there. Fucking hell.
that they've done
I
exactly
used to say
what
that about
we could.
myself with the fucking Infinity 85 idea.
Yeah, like I just
kind of flopped it.
I love everything about the Hut Group, but if you look at even their websites, their social medias, their marketing of all of their brands, they are just a duplicate of each other.
Yeah, they are.
Like if you look at Look Fantastic and
Yeah,
My Protein, it's literally
It's the same thing.
It's all based on the
They-
same back end ingenuity.
They're a bit like what I
Ingenuity,
said.
yeah.
Like
They tried to sign me up for 3PO about a month ago.
They got into the market when that barrier to entry I discussed earlier
So much lower.
was low, so they could launch these brands that are very, very similar in different niches and meet like the minimum entry requirements, and then just pump so much money into it that they just blew everybody out of the water. So we've got to approach it in a different way, but I almost think it's better to make something self-sustaining at a small scale. Because even if we make brands that are self-sustaining at a small scale, then we could sell those. Like you could split those brands off and sell those, and it's a cash injection to do bigger things. There's things like acquiring brands further down the line as well that we haven't really looked at. Yeah, I think there's a longer play that's more valuable than selling Tev. But as I said, I think you should always build things to sell because it makes them operationally more efficient.
The
Yeah,
biggest
that is
barrier to
true.
entry in the D2C market is the fulfillment side of things,
Yeah.
and the customer service back end, the marketing back end, and we have them, so we can now, you know, if we see a sort of a new market arise that we like, we can grow into it very quickly and not have that sort of upward ceiling of, well, if it is a short-term trend, we can only make X on this because we'll be 3 months late to the party. We can do it there and then.
Yeah, that's something we want to work on early next year, is that research to product development cycle, because that's probably the biggest thing. If you can get on trends and you can spot, it's a bit like if you're trying to get into drop shipping, but like we have the ability to do it straight to brand rather than drop ship.
Yeah, I'd really like to do, like we were saying before, more product testing with Space Goods.
Yes.
So it's great having one SKU, but I'd like to be in a position where I could trial a new flavour or a new ingredient overnight.
Yeah, if you
Makes
can,
it way more scalable.
Effectively, you want to get to a point with if we're going to build this group where we can do the whole, like, if obviously dropshippers try and spot a trend, jump on the trend and rip the
But then the
product.
fulfillment and experience is not scalable past like 3 months.
But exactly, so we have that infrastructure to make it where we can just test the product, very quickly move it to fulfillment, and then not have any of the problems that dropshippers would encounter with much better cash flow, much better infrastructure, and then just repeat that process with brands. Obviously, we don't want to do too much, but like just test, fail, test, scale. Like it's not every product's going to hit. Not everything we do is going to hit. You just have to accept that.
Q1's plans are a product dev team and the recruitment team first, and then the product dev team, and have 4 or 5 killers that might specialize in different things. You know, the one I've got eyed up at the minute is more from a like makeup and beauty background. I want to have one from like a supplement background, and sort of just have them together, and just to the point where you know,
Problem with that is they're going to fucking realise that mushrooms are hot. And there's
And
going to be
they're
conflict of interest and we're going to fall out.
Nah,
The essence mushroom.
the essence of mushroom.
Yeah,
we're doing
the mushroom bowl.
We're doing a supplement brand, and that guy that I introed you to tried to push me to do a mushroom supplement. I was like, I can't do it.
Because he knows
No.
it's coming.
Yeah, he did.
It's
Yeah,
the way.
he did.
We can say right now that we'll never do a mushroom supplement.
We can hold us to that. He pushed. Yeah, he did. His trend analysis was very clear that it is coming. It is the wave. It's everywhere at the moment. Everywhere. It's like mushrooms.
It's got on Netflix, isn't it?
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, I think like you should build a business to sell. You read the book Built to Sell. Everyone should read that book. So good, so good.
Who's it by?
I can't remember.
Amazon affiliate link coming in the bio of this.
That's all. That's our monetization for this podcast at this point. Just Amazon affiliate links for everything.
Yeah, legit.
But it just makes you make less. Like, even if you look at like, there's so many tech companies that just spend money on stupid shit. I think we discussed this the other
like Twitter.
episode. Like, if you actually build things efficiently and self-sustainingly from the very start, you make so much better strategic decisions. You don't just throw money at some stuff like it's just pointless shit that doesn't move the needle. Like, pointless shit. I was going to name drop some company then, but I'm not going to do it. But yeah, I think it's a better way to do things.
Do you think it's possible to launch a new brand these days and be profitable from day one? And if so, what do you need to achieve that? Or is it kind of a... Because I guess
Yes.
this is a broader question, because like my approach with the brand is at the minute I'm kind of in like scaling mode, where it's like we could be profitable if we just didn't want to scale as quick. Because just on subscribers it's like nearly 200 grand a month in recurring. Obviously there's churn, so if you stop running ads you wouldn't have subscribers in 6 months. You'd have some, but wouldn't have 200 grand.
You go first.
So my approach is trying to get to like a critical mass, at least in like the next year, and then we can fucking like strip the fat.
I think that makes sense when you've raised money as well.
Which is why I'm
Like,
raising more money.
Raise, but then like,
because the numbers add up on an LTV to CAC basis.
exactly, like you're playing the 12 to 18 month game where those like your profit comes from LTV over time. It's like a SaaS business eventually. You get to a tipping point where, and a lot of SaaS companies don't reach that tipping point, to be honest. But like you get to a tipping point where that profit and LTV comes through, so it like covers your marketing spend, and then you reach profitability. But that makes sense when you're raising money. I guess you go first on the...
I think being profitable from day one sort of coincides and runs parallel with the barrier to entry. I think if it can be profitable from day one, there's a low barrier to entry in generally everything.
Yeah.
I think if you're not investing quite heavily in research and development with that idea, then someone else can copy it pretty quickly. Say for example, skincare brand, you can launch a small white label brand, and with them 10,000 units, sell them all and be profitable straight away. But then so could you, or so could you. But with yourself, like, it's a very bespoke product in space goods where, you know, you might not be profitable from day one, but because you've got the personal brand, you can foresee profitability very soon, very quickly. But unless you had that I wouldn't want to launch a brand that you can be profitable from day one.
I think it depends.
Was Ted profitable from day one?
You came from a different foundation, I guess.
It was from a different foundation, because it wasn't directly into D2C. It was markets first.
That's mad. You did fucking markets,
street markets, like proper.
That's like some poverty shit.
Yeah.
I think you can be profitable from day one, depending on the business. So, like, an example would be if you're drop shipping and then you pair that with TikTok organic, like you've got no outgoing if you make the video. So, like, to answer your question, yes, you could do like drop shipping, then pair that with TikTok organic or Instagram organic, or like content marketing where it's
frauds,
where like the only time investment.
I'll speak about that in a second.
Where the only time investment on that marketing is your own input, and therefore you don't have any outgoings other than a few subscriptions, and then you make money off good content. So you can be profitable on day one. I think in your situations, or in my situation, like, I wouldn't expect to be profitable in day one. I wouldn't want to be either, because you want to kind of spend enough on acquisition to get learnings and shit. I wouldn't want to be spending £10 a day on ads. It's pointless.
That's
I'd rather going at like 500 to £1,000 where you learn stuff and then like you lose money, but you get the learnings, and then you get to the point of profitability quickly, and then you grow at a much faster rate.
When I first left my job to do TEV, we were doing £20 a day in ads.
Yeah, but that was a few years ago. It's possible to do that.
But as soon as we done that, because we weren't getting the learnings of or aggressive scaling, we then went from making enough to be profitable to no sales in like 10 days. And I shit myself.
You have to spend when you start a brand.
I think it's almost impossible to start a brand where you own stock with like no money.
Yeah, you have to go in a decent
you need
whack.
like 10-20k at least.
Yeah, because you're not in those early phases. You're not phases. Fucking hell, I went a bit Yorkshire then. In those early phases, you're paying as much for the learnings as you are for the sales. Like you have to learn about content. You have to learn about your funnel. You have to learn about like even like the product itself.
Such a momentum thing, isn't it, with scaling?
You get momentum, you get learnings, then you just incrementally improve things over time. So I do think you can be profitable from day one, but it wouldn't be a way I'd operate. I think you can on a drop ship. I don't think you can on a brand.
I mean, we are actually one of the brands in very early stages is sort of geared to be able to be profitable from day one.
Yeah.
But we're going to keep it a secret for now. But
the reason for that is the way we're going to set up the marketing. Though that's a product, as I said earlier, that lends itself to content marketing and building a list of content. And we're going to build that list over a period of 3 to 6 months before we launch the product through really good content marketing. But then obviously I'm not going to build that content myself because we're going to employ someone to do it. So technically we're not going to be profitable from day one. Yeah. But we can build I think we can build a good enough content infrastructure to have like 100,000 subscribers so that when we launch the product, we instantly get that sales throughput.
It's like influencers.
Yeah. Yeah, if you've got a following already,
launch a brand, do millions. I'm sure she spends on ads, but like maybe previously.
I think that's the way I would approach it. If I had no money trying to start an e-com business, I would pick a niche that lends itself to having really good content strategy, because then you can just put your time into making good content and building an audience through that content, be that like blogs, good Instagram feeds, TikTok organic reposting, funnel people to a website which has more of that content, capture their lead information, do that for 6 months, build another big enough list, and then launch a product off the back of that. Then you can get to profitability straight away.
I don't know what you said last. What were you saying?
Can't remember.
Do some co-hosting.
Took a little pot.
Help me out.
Took a little break there.
The Tillamook organic Malbec.
Tokyo's joined me over here for a chili. Looks worried.
Oh,
he's on the move.
He's a wine connoisseur.
Finish this.
He's had another sip, look.
Oh, he's drinking it. I want to see him get loose.
It's really bad for dogs. You can't let them drink it. They can't don't let them drink it.
He's only licking the side.
You can't process wine.
Grapes.
Yeah, grapes.
Is that true?
Grapes.
Yeah,
grapes are
grapes
poisonous.
kill dogs.
It's just chocolate.
No, grapes, because they can't process
grapes in general.
Yeah.
I used to feed them grapes.
Oh god,
that's right.
They always spit it out.
It's because they can't.
Hey.
Grapes have the same effect on dogs as wine does on humans. They can't process the alcoholic thing in it. I don't know enough about it, to be honest. I can't remember what we were saying. We were talking about something. Obviously, it'd be a pretty shit podcast if we weren't.
It's a shit podcast anyway, but people listen to it. Where were we? Help me out. In this episode, you're an interesting middle ground because you're a co-host, but also involved in the business.
Yeah, it's unique, isn't it?
If there's one thing you would change about the Essence Vault, what would it be?
So now the guest is asking the question.
Asking me questions.
It's a desperate scene.
God. I don't know. I could.
See the way he's pausing.
It's good to think about your answers.
You pay him less.
What would I change about it? Oh, I'd solve our supply chain problems.
Yeah.
That would be nice. I think if we could expedite a couple of hires, having a head of brand would be really nice if we had one of those right now. I wouldn't change much about it. I think the growth trajectory is ridiculously good. Like it would be stupid to wish for much more than
how much you plan on doing in 23?
60 mil.
60?
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Touch wood.
I knew it was big. I knew it was that big.
Bosh.
The Bosh.
and how are you going to get there compared to what you've done this year?
So the last my last 3 months have been focusing on ensuring that the US can go sort of unscathed. So we've got our expedited shipping method, which we're one of the first 3 brands in the UK to be able to ship stuff dangerous goods free. So it's still basically so obviously perfumes, dangerous goods has to be kept separate in an airplane, but basically we're being allowed to ship, because we're shipping quite large quantities every day. They're trying us to change the rules on dangerous goods. So the rules at the minute is there has to be a dangerous goods certified engineer on every flight. That
Would you not just localise fulfillment?
No. It's 6 to 1.
Eventually, yeah.
But this is going to allow us to enter the market because of the price increases from the US market. Like, our competitors over there are charging like $70 for a 100ml bottle, whereas we're charging £25. So we can sort of find a middle ground in price and still make up that margin.
We'll do that. I'm confident we'll do that. We'll get the UK. There's so much growth to get in the UK where we can get it to a point where it makes up a bulk of that. But I think we'll get to America.
So do you think you can get to 50 mil in the UK?
Let me do the math. Probably not quite that. No, not maybe. I don't know. It's difficult to project next year.
How much ad spend for 60 mil rev next year?
10 to 15. Well, 15 to 20% MER.
That's only 15% of revenue.
Yeah.
At those product margins.
Probably, yeah. I don't really want to give too much. I don't know if we're giving too much away. I don't know. No, we're not.
But yeah, the UK market definitely depends on how much our competitors rip us off. Because it's like getting notoriously bad to the point where we are looking at legal options, because like they're literally just taking our ads, give them to Incense, and getting people to rip the ads word for word.
Yeah, but there's I don't think that's a worry. Like, I was talking to a client.
It's not really a worry.
I was talking to the client the other day. Like, if you're a business that always has to go to other people's ads for inspiration, you're fundamentally behind by like 2 or 3 months every time. Like, you want to be the person who's leading with exceptional ideas and leading with.
I'm waiting for all the rips.
They'll come. They'll come. You've had one on Twitter. I remember that guy.
Sans.
Like, so like such an obvious rip.
He's probably watching the pod.
It's just like, if
For
you're
inspiration.
Yeah.
Don't copy perfumes.
And like, that's good enough to get you to a stage, but it's not good enough for you to dominate a market. Like, you're always going to be chasing. It's always going to be. It's fundamentally.
You've got to be seen as the first one in the space, haven't you, to be like the brand.
It's funny because we weren't. We were the second to another brand, and you know, we sort of overtook them quite quickly. But they raised their prices, like doubled their prices, to the point where they were trying to be the luxury in a space where you're capped at prices based on other perfume brands, you know. So it was a wee bit of a weird move, but like they're definitely, obviously they're maybe playing like an LTV play in terms of subscription and stuff, but whereas we went for more of a LTV push with multiple purchases rather than just one purchase. Like our repurchase rate is like 65%, so we know our products are very, very good.
That's growing alarmingly fast as well, which is why I think like UK we can get to some stupid numbers next year, and then we plug in the US, plug in a few other regions. I think 60 mil is defo doable, just through that, and maybe one other brand.
15% of our customers rebuy every month, and that's grown by
just like
every single month.
Their LTV is 12 purchases a month.
There's no subscription in place either. It's just like, come to the website and buy again. It's beautiful. So I think there's a lot of work to do, but like, if we can, I think there's, as I said before, there's so many places to still work on that will add massive value.
Can I put 60 mil in the title of this podcast to get more clicks?
Of course.
Yeah.
Just, you can hold me accountable.
Allegedly blew it.
Yeah.
Come on with some Shopify screenshots in a year's time.
How big do you think it can be in 10 years?
Don't know. Hard to say.
Yeah, it's a weird one because I don't even like looking at the next 12 months. Like, before Ollie, I was purely month on month, and then hit that depression phase in January where our sales fall off a fucking cliff. Does
that happen in January?
So last January was our first sort of, because that we were very, very high in terms of year-on-year growth, and then last January it did sort of plateau. That last January, February were the only 2 months we haven't grew month on month.
I think the thing I would say is, like, fundamentally it's a product that benefits from an economic downturn.
Yeah.
It's a cost saving exercise. Like how does that not benefit from people having less money? It just fundamentally does. And like there's obviously going to be a subset of society at the topper levels that are never going to move away from the designer perfumes, but that's not who we're going after. We're going after those people who want to save 50, 60 quid a month. And like...
I mean, do people get through a perfume a month?
Some people
I buy a fucking fancy aftershave, it lasts me 2 years.
Yeah, that's the concept.
But when it costs you less, you just slap it on.
Yeah.
Like,
Is
half a
that
bottle
what
at a
we
time.
find? Yeah.
Yeah,
True.
It's like you're just a bit more loose with it, aren't you? So I think fundamentally it benefits from an economic downturn. It benefits from people having less money because it's and then once people have had a good experience with it, it's very hard to then go back to paying more for something that you've had the same experience for less.
But like I don't even try and deter away from that and just provide like I generally believe our perfumes are amongst the best in the world at any price.
Have you got an Acqua di Parma one? Inspired by
yeah.
Because my favourite right now is, I mean, I've never found the perfume for me. I always like try a new one, but one I liked in summer was Acqua di Parma. Forgotten the fucking variant. But have you got any of those?
Yeah,
Maybe we do a Space Goods collab.
Space Goods collab.
And I fucking like that one because every time I smell it, reminds me of this moment in summer with a certain someone.
You romantic cunt.
Yeah.
sense the thing.
Oh,
biggest
so
memory.
mad. It's
Yeah.
mad. I literally was in the lift, I don't know, fucking 2 months ago here, and someone was wearing my ex-girlfriend's perfume. And I was like, wow.
I really
That shit brings you to like a different fucking planet.
That's a campaign I want to do this year. This year coming.
I think smell is the most associative
It is.
sense or whatever.
It
Like you
is.
smell a perfume and you just brings you back to that person.
I think, and someone might steal this, but I think someone we know might steal this. I think a great campaign would be like something around like memories, like make yourself memorable basically through scent.
No, they'll just wait until after we've done it. So sorry.
Yeah, but I think that'd be a really good like big campaign to do through a certain part of the year. I don't know when. Maybe Valentine's Day. Sort
This
of
just
like.
brought me on to a good point actually. If you're going to 60 mil or whatever, like, have you done any brand marketing yet? Has it all been performance marketing?
It's all direct.
Moise Ali spoke about this. I actually agree. He said like until you get to 10 mil, it should just be
Yeah.
performance marketing.
Listen,
It's funny because like I think until you get to 10 mil, your word of mouth is brand marketing. You know, like it's only
if you have good products, yeah. Your focus for that period should be providing an extremely good experience and finding an acquisition channel that works.
Yeah.
And those two things alone, because you get the word of mouth benefits of providing a really good experience, which is brand, and then have an acquisition channel that you can pour money down profitably.
I would argue that TikTok, when the ads manager wasn't as strong as it was now, was a brand
Yeah.
exercise because of how cheap the CPMs were. Like we were getting like 65p CPMs at a
It's
stage.
ridiculous.
So that was a brand play and performance marketing play at the same time.
Yeah, I guess when I think of brand marketing, and I'm not a fucking expert, but I just think of stuff that evokes an emotion rather than a sell.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a long, and because of that emotion and association, like your fucking, when you say that sort of campaign,
It's memorable.
like
memorable
this
beyond.
80s movie I've done, I guess
Yeah.
is that is brand marketing, to
So
be fair.
I think,
On one of our new brands that it's going to be in the fragrance niche as well, so that's going to be more of a brand play
yeah.
because the higher AOV can sort of combat that.
Yeah, I think beyond a point, like you have to lead with brand equity, and then the performance catches up to that, and like,
Yeah.
you need the brand equity in order to make everything else work. But it's like, when is that point? That point will differ for every brand.
Yeah.
Like you're going to need a lot more brand equity because your offer is a lot more complex, and there's a lot more like trust involved with the purchase. I think again, skincare is a good example of this. Like brand equity is massive in skincare because you don't just have to convince someone that the cost of your product is worth it. You have to convince the risk of switching from their current skincare routine, it's worth that risk of making that jump. So therefore you have to have like a trust and brand equity play that kind of makes the perceived value of your product exceed those two things, the cost and the actual risk of switching.
I think a large part of every consumer confidence is a placebo effect, whereas it plays into word of mouth, it plays into influencer marketing, it plays into the price, it plays into how good your packaging is. A large part of it is a placebo play.
100%.
You know, like your packaging is on point, so naturally before a person, and it's funny because we ran this last year. That was about 12 months ago. So we switched from Hermes to Royal Mail Track 24. So everything goes out Track 24. our returns rate was sitting about 2% when we were with Hermes. We switched everything to Royal Mail 24, so customers were getting, instead of waiting 4 days for an order, they were getting it next day, and our returns rate halved, but reviews based on product quality also doubled. Sorry.
Yeah.
So customers thought
'Cause
our
the
product was
experience
better,
was better.
just because they had the Amazon effect of receiving it faster.
It's like that's an example of
Yeah, wait a minute. So that makes me think we've switched to Royal Mail 24 in the past week.
Don't tell people.
Which is
No, yeah,
£1.40 more expensive. No, we haven't mentioned it.
Yeah.
But like, a bit of me thinking, oh, it's more expensive, but it's probably worth it.
So
Yeah.
that's
Just for the returns potential change.
It's an example of like what you did there was an example of under promise and over deliver,
yeah.
which
Which is
everyone.
the opposite to most brands or so.
But
That's the
like
big
everyone
bullet.
applies that really heavily to service-based businesses, but not that many people apply it heavily to brands.
I'm a big
Yeah, very
believer
true.
of rating a customer's happiness between 1 to 10. So naturally, say for example, the customer's happiness is 5, right? Product's late by 2 days, customer happiness is now 3. They open your product's okay, so it goes up to 4. But if the customer's product happiness is 5, receives the parcel 2 days early, now it goes up to 7. They open the product and it's still only a 1. The difference is a customer happiness level of 4 and 8, just based on how they got the parcel. And I'm a big believer, like, part of the reason why I love Represent is because I order it and I get it next day.
Yeah,
Like next 2 days,
So
3 days.
quick.
I reckon I spent £5 on Represent.
Yeah.
You spent about £5 grand.
Because I used to
last
buy
month
from them in
on Represent.
2016 before it was cool.
17,000 I've done Represent.
17k. I mean, I've never actually checked, but yeah.
It tells you
Probably
their
not as much as
fucking
that.
prestige. Oh.
But I think you can
Apply
apply.
that is a lot. It's like B2B SaaS.
I think you can apply like an under promise over deliver mentality to ecom brand, and like not enough people do. Like for example, if you improve your shipping times, maybe you should just test not telling people but just exceeding their expectations. So if you get next day delivery as standard, maybe just keep your shipping times as 2 to 4 days, but then everybody gets it next day. And
Yeah.
everybody's just like, holy shit, I expected this in 4
And
days.
you could also
it's here
split
now.
test increasing the product cost by the £1 extra you
Yeah.
pay.
Yeah.
Just
And like,
absorb
they
it.
wouldn't notice that, but the perception of the experience would be better.
It's like, well, yeah, perception is everything in that sense, and like they're going to remember that, or they're going to remember the experience of getting that quicker, and probably tell people about it, even if it's just the partner, and be like, that's how like that word of mouth spreads.
Well, our product before then, our time to second purchase, which is something that I believe in heavily from a gifting product. Our time to second purchase was 19 days. We swapped to Track24. Our time to second purchase halved to 9 days.
9 days.
straight
fucking hell.
away.
Just
Yeah.
by exceeding expectations, yeah, which is just huge. Perceived value and exceeding expectations are two big things that you can prioritize.
Never really thought about that with shipping. That's a good point.
Like how many?
So you
I
don't need
suppose
to tell everybody everything, like just
Yeah, like we still do the same thing. You know, we you get standard shipping for $2.99, fast shipping is $4.99. A majority of people still choose the fast shipping, but everything gets sent out at the same time. Now, don't get me wrong, in terms of process time, the express always gets processed first. So if we're really busy like Black Friday, we'll process the express orders first, but they all get sent on the same service of Track24.
Yeah, another thing I was thinking earlier is because we do free UK shipping just for everything right now. Do you reckon that's a bad idea? Would there be more leverage in doing free for subscribers, for example, and then you push that?
If that's
Maybe,
your play,
yeah.
but
Maybe, yeah.
it's one of the things to A/B test. Like it's
yeah.
there's some A/B tests where we've thought are going to be clear winners. Like for example, floating CTA bar on product pages. Like
Yeah, it just didn't work.
that was in our heads was like, right, that's a fucking no brainer. Why are we not doing it? A/B tested it and it dropped CTR by like 3%.
Just use Google Optimize.
Yeah, I don't know.
so
I don't know if I would change that, because like thinking about your products, like
'Cause
what do you
my
need?
logic was, and I've always been pissed off when brands in the UK try and charge me for shipping. It's not my fault you happen to be online.
Yeah,
Like you're paying for the product, it needs to be delivered, so it should be free.
I
That was
think-
my logic.
Yeah, I mean it's hard for you because usually what I would recommend would be have a free shipping threshold of something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
It only was
that's what I used to
product.
do with Midnight City and shit.
But then, are you going to force people into buying 2 bags at once?
Yeah, because it's not a product that lends itself
Yeah.
to,
That's what I was about to say.
unless you've got like more than 2 or 3 SKUs, which you don't yet.
I feel like for you, like when you're trying to convert those first time customers, like what are you trying to do? You're trying to reduce the friction so that they can try the product, and then you're trying to have an instant.
Yeah, well, I mean, sample pack is the most common question we get, so
Yeah.
I still need to do that. So
Like-
I did have those on order. Then it turned out the supplier fucked up the packaging because it was too small to get the same effect on the touch, and I didn't want to do a matte packet.
Yeah, it's like, how do you?
Maybe I should still do it.
So like for you, it's like, how do you decrease the friction so that people are more willing to try the product, and then how do you make sure that they have a perceived, like real or perceived like benefit as soon as they take that product, that then they makes them want to buy again.
Like, would you really, like, from your point of view, would you really want the impact of negative reviews on a customer that's only paid £10 to try the product? You know, it's not the same. It's not the same.
That's the flip side of it.
I do think that the risk in sample packs is like whether people have committed to it as much. I don't know.
So
It's
for
quite-
6 months, instead of sample packs, we're just giving out a 50% discount to people that asked. Because it was better than not having them, but I've just stopped doing it. It's
Yeah,
not really because people started telling each other, if you comment on Instagram, you'll get 50% off. So then every comment was, "Where's my discount?" And we just said we're not doing it anymore. It's not
I
viable.
mean, yeah, like it's weird. Like it's in the early days of the brand where I was still doing the customer service. I found that massively. It was where when customers were asking for free like samples, and then you were saying, "No, look here, you pay for the sample, but here's a free shipping code." Like they tended to be the ones that fucking gurned about everything.
Yeah.
Like they're gurning that they were out when Roy Mail came. Like
yeah.
obvious. Like they're gonna if it can't fit through your letterbox and you haven't put a safe place, they're gonna leave you a card.
Yeah, they're the most likely to have like the ones that are going to leave you negative reviews. Same as an agency client. The agency clients that haggle you down
80-20.
the most, like, are the ones that are going to be a fucking nightmare. The ones that pay the least are usually the ones that are the biggest problem.
Yeah.
Whereas the ones that pay the best are like, oh, there's my report, sick, spend some more money. Like,
Yeah.
it's the same with
Yeah.
people. Like the ones that haggle you down are usually inherently just difficult people to deal with.
Yeah.
So I think like, yeah, I would just try and reduce the friction to people to actually trying the product on the front end, and then just give them a great experience and have increase your perceived value of that through other methods. But yeah.
Yeah, fuck. Gonna test that.
That was definitely our needle mover in terms of growth, and our sort of, I would almost call it a hack, because
Yeah.
it was. Now obviously we're at a level where it's like, well, do we need that? Do we need that cost? Because it is fucking dear. Like it's a lot dearer than Track 24. But then you think, well, it's only £1,
Yeah, it's worth it.
and an average order value of £30. It's like all you need is like one of the 30 customers to
Buy
order again, and it's covered. You know.
Yeah. I think your biggest play is community. I've told you this multiple times. I've said this.
You know,
off
one thing I
camera.
noticed over Black Friday, and it really pissed me off because I thought I'd done the wrong thing, is Athletic Greens have never done a sale. And I'm obsessed with that brand now because every
it's
fucking
sick.
investor call I say, I'm trying to be the next Athletic Greens or Huel, but Athletic Greens more because I love the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
They didn't do a sale over Black Friday.
You don't need to.
And fucking Recharge told me, but they probably shouldn't have told me, that they have 300,000 active subscribers paying $89 a month. So do the maths on that. It's like,
it's a SaaS company, isn't it?
I'm one of them, and I've never fucking tasted it.
I've
Never
got
like,
7
what, it's
months
like 26 million a month?
Mhm.
300 million a year in subscriptions.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, that's why they're worth 1.2 billion, probably more now.
yeah.
It's absolutely.
What did you run over Black Friday?
I think it was retarded. I did a fucking subscription only for a week, and it was basically half price on the first month.
Is that so bad?
I mean, we got a fuckload of new subscribers, like 2,500 new subscribers, which was more than doubling the previous entire amount.
Not.
But then,
I
but then
wouldn't-
churn went really high
I
after
was
Black
going to
Friday.
say, not enough brand owners do
And
analysis post Black Friday on LTV of those people they acquired.
I
on
noticed
Black
straight away
Friday.
on Skio, which we're currently
Because
using,
it's like,
that churn went up. Like, so once we stopped the offer, we're getting like 300 subscribers a day or whatever. We didn't really spend much on Black Friday, so we've got no fucking stock, but that's not the point. But then churn just went way
through
up
the
in
roof.
the 2 weeks after.
But
will
did
have
it go up as high as losing all of them?
No, it's still like a net benefit
So like,
And not enough
for now.
But see, I refuse
But then I
to
thought,
believe,
because the thing with subscriptions is, because those people got in at $29 a month, so it wasn't quite half price, that would piss off everyone paying $39 a month. So my theory is a lot of people cancelled that were paying $39 during the offer and
Jumped on.
resubscribed.
I mean, but you're not really. It's not really discounting, because all you're doing is discounting the first month. So but I
Yeah.
would love to see the
Yeah.
cut in CPA versus the £10 discount on the front end.
It
Yeah,
What's your
yeah.
CPA not £10 cheaper?
It is
Oh, more. Yeah,
but
more than
it,
that.
There you
but
go.
but your product cost is the same. Your fulfillment cost is the
Well, that
same.
doesn't
matter. Yeah, I
and
just wasn't
there's a
sure.
massive.
But
brand,
that doesn't
but
matter
then there's
because your
also a brand-
CPA is you're taking £10 off your CPA and taking it, or sorry, taking £10 off your CPA and taking £10 off your AOV. It's a direct correlation.
It is to a degree, but it's also like there's brand equity to consider. There's like LT.
Yeah, so
there's
basically,
also,
I
like,
wasn't sure if it was the right move, but I did it.
There's
so.
also the LTV of those people compared to the LTV of people who pay at full
Yeah.
price. There's no way they'll be the same. Like people don't consider contribution margin enough over Black Friday. Like
What is contribution margin? I sound so retarded saying that because I've heard people pump that around. It might be a different way of saying the same thing. But when you say contribution margin, what do you mean? Have you just said a big
Always
word?
made
That
the
you don't
term
know
up.
what
He
it
doesn't know what it means.
Because when you say contribution margin, my perception of that, and I got caught on a fucking call in Investor the other day. I said, sorry, I don't know what you mean by contribution margin. I don't know if we're talking about the same thing. I thought he meant the margin left, just basically the gross margin after product and fulfillment. What's the margin that you can afford to spend on CAC?
Oh, he's looking up right
I'm
now.
not. I'm getting a phone call from Lucas. Sorry,
Um,
I've got 6 phone calls.
I know. I would question whether or not customers actually lower the perceived value of the
He's got to
brand
go in 2 minutes. It's been a rushed podcast.
over. I would question whether or not consumers actually lower the brand awareness or brand perception over Black Friday. I think all brands are allowed a sale over Black Friday without
Yeah.
ruining, because they don't associate it with the sale of the brand, they associate it with the sale of the time of year. So they're not going to buy over that period unless you've got a sale,
Yeah, true.
you know, or it's that you've got that customer's attention over Black Friday with your ad, right? That you've got shown, but the first thing they're thinking of, oh, it's Black Friday. Where's their sale? And then you've lost them because they're now
Yeah.
interested in your product, but they want to go with a competitor because there's going to be a sale with your competitor.
Yeah.
We were lucky over Black Friday that our sale was bigger than every other competitors. The closest competitor offered buy two get one free, where ours was simplistic, buy one get one free. So that's a net positive for us because the customers expect that from us. That's okay. I'm not really in a decision where they're going to they don't care that we offer the buy one get one free. They're not going to assume that we're lower quality because our Trustpilot reviews say otherwise compared to competitors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think not people.
Have you found the Google result for what is contribution
No,
margin?
I don't want to butcher the explanation of it, and I can waffle an explanation. It's like the contribution margin is like the revenue attributed by a sale minus the variable cost. It's the variable cost of the ad spend / fulfill, like anything that's variable basically. So if you decrease the price of a product, and then even if your variable costs remain the same but usually increase over Black Friday because you spend more, then the contribution margin decreases because you're selling the product for less and you're spending more through
But not
ad
if your
spending
CPAs £10 cheaper.
But not if, I guess so. I might have butchered that, to be honest. I usually will waffle that.
And you don't get questioned on it.
Very good question on it. But I think the fundamental thing is a lot of people do enough analysis around the customers they acquire over that period and whether they're actually worth acquiring for a higher cost and selling a lower priced product. It's like some people, and I don't believe this whole narrative of you should never run a sale.
Yeah.
Because you should fundamentally probably do some offers, especially like US based offers they pop. But if your brand is not aligned to do that, Athletics Greens didn't run one, for example. That's perfectly aligned with their brand.
That was interesting.
I think you got to think that through because a lot of people tend towards becoming busy fools over that period of making the same amount of net profit but selling 5 times as many units.
Yeah.
It's like
5 times as many customer service
that's
inquiries.
okay if the LTV from that becomes worth it, but a lot of the time it probably won't.
Obviously, the LTV push you wouldn't know yet because it
it's
hasn't been
hard.
30 days since
It's
that sale.
hard. We did quite a lot of analysis over it last year, and there was a lot of brands that didn't benefit from it. But depends on the ecosystem you got set up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Yeah,
He's sinking that £7 Malbec.
You've got to go for the community play next year, though. Like,
have you ever tried doing podcast sponsorships?
No, but I was thinking this the other day because
you'd smash podcasts.
I originally converted on Athletic Greens from Huberman
Yeah,
Lamb.
I did as well.
Yeah.
I actually straight up converted from that, and then I got hit loads of times after that on Instagram, which I'd never seen him before.
I bet that ROI on that human podcast investment is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because he's like the perfect person, like authority to the max.
Authoritative, yeah, and like just massive
literally
reach.
a Stanford scientist on health, and well, not a neuroscientist.
He knows everything.
He's
He does.
the
He should be called
messiah.
Google Huberman.
So funny. He's such a meathead as well.
Yeah,
A meathead in this black.
I watch him and
Friedman.
Friedman a lot. Yeah, Lex Friedman.
I like Friedman. I also like Rogan. Rogan's funny.
It just goes to show with this shit, like consistency with podcasts, how you build an audience, and obviously good content.
Humans off the back of ridiculously good content and
Yeah,
well presented, well delivered, well structured. Like he came from nowhere. And he grew really fast over a
Rapidly,
period
yeah.
of like 18 months.
I thought he'd been around like 10 years.
He probably has, but like
I'm probably
his
wrong.
point of becoming big was, yeah, people have always been around longer than you think, aren't they?
Same with the Midnight Pod. We'll go from we've been sat on like 5 to 6K subscribers for about 5 years. I mean, well, 1 year. Then we'll go to
Yeah, we're
fucking
not
5
taking it
million
seriously.
overnight. That's the plan.
Yeah.
What's the final question I always ask in these pods? I've probably already had an answer from fucking.
He asked it last.
Well, it's so cliche, but I ask it every time now. I think I have to find a new cliche to go with from like next week, but because I know you're getting in trouble, you've got to fucking leave. I'm not invited to Christmas party. I've got no Christmas parties this year because
It's not my Christmas
I don't have any
party to
fucking
invite
friends.
you to.
I would have invited you to mine, but it's already been.
Yeah, well, next year. 3 bits of advice to your 18-year-old self, knowing what you know now. Also, I feel like, how old are you?
27.
You're definitely wiser than the average 47-year-old.
Yeah.
Like you're just like a wise figure. Do you not think?
Yeah, definitely.
Like when I first met you, I thought you were like 35.
Got pure
Is that
dad.
the hairline or?
No, it's not, I don't know. I just feel like I often feel like I'm like a 16-year-old kid that's in like a fucking 27-year-old's body now. And I
You've
look
got-
around and there's cunts that are my age that are clearly just like
You've got pure dad energy.
Me?
I'm like struggling to be a dog dad. I'm like, anyway,
I think the first one would definitely be give up responsibility a little bit faster. Be in control of the sort of. Being in control doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be overseeing everything. What we learned, if we put the SOPs in place, you can sort of manage it from afar. I think the third one will be just put your head down and just enjoy things. I think naturally, if you have a problem, think about it in the way: is it going to be here in 5 days? Probably not. Is it going to be here in 5 weeks? Probably not. So why are you stressing about stuff that hasn't happened? And that sort of eat my own words, because the last 3 months have been the most stressful I've ever been in business. We were days away from running out of stock, like 8 times. So like, but yeah, we at the silver lining is we got through it anyway. So, and we've had the best Q4 we've ever had, ×4. And yeah, if you're not enjoying the process, you'll get bored of it eventually. So you have to enjoy the process. Enjoy the process, not the goal.
Yeah. Process over outcome.
Yeah, and the last year has definitely been all about pushing out everything that I don't like to do in business and doing everything that I do like, and it's been a lot more enjoyable. Apart from working with Ollie, it's a bit draining.
It's tough.
Jarring, as he says.
yeah. I was going to say I'll ask you that, but I asked you that at the end of the last episode, and no one wants to hear that again.
No, I've not got that many insights.
He shares them all on Twitter.
Just
His personal brand team shares it on Twitter. Yeah, fucking hell.
Have you?
Yeah, shit.
Right, I guess with that said, on that bombshell, we'll wrap up the episode. Was it 52 or 53?
It's 53, I
53.
think. But
I was really pissed off myself that I originally never managed to do the 52 in a row. I got to
Yeah.
48 in a row, I think
Next
it was, and I
year.
took a strange 4-month hiatus, and then like sort of hiatus, 2 months, then 2 months.
you needed those 4 months to yourself just to grow.
Yeah,
Now
exactly.
you're back better than ever.
Exactly.
I think to end, not to hijack, is like January we've got a lot of guests, sponsors, structure, more. It's all coming in hot. There's a lot.
There's a lot of guests in January.
I can't wait to see your new sponsor.
Yeah, no. Just
Sponsored by
one small fulfillment company in
Jack
Ireland.
Fulfillment. Yeah. I'm going to chuck the fucking link in this episode just to provide more value to the sponsor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, cheers for watching. Subscribe to the pod. Let's fucking go. See you in the next episode. Peace.